and welcome back to the Garden Next Door. If you have ever started gardening in the spring, think April and March, and just felt overwhelmed and literally burnt out by June, then this video is for you. Today we're going to talk about how you can be planning your garden in winter. It is actually probably the best time to be planting your garden. You can start thinking exactly about what you're going to grow. You can plan out your beds and you can make it so that by the time spring comes, you are ready to go and you feel fully equipped to actually get going. So cozy up, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and let's get to it. Let's talk about why I actually love planning in winter. Now, in the past, I used to think that you should be planning in March or April, but then it always felt like I was playing catch up to what everyone else was doing. And by June, I was completely burnt out and uninspired to keep going until I realized that I should really start planning in winter. I can get all of my seed orders in. I can make sure that I have all of my beds planned out. I know exactly when I'm going to start all of my items. I can plug it into my calendar so I have everything down exactly how I need it. And by the time the growing season starts, I actually feel really well equipped for what's going on in that season. Whether you are a beginner or whether you are advanced, planning in the winter is key to success regardless of your stage, because it really means that once the spring comes, you can be outside planning everything there and not in your head or inside reading and trying to think through what you need to do, because all of your ideas are thought out for the entire year and you can do all the research ahead of time. Maybe as you're doing something, you need to mitigate something that's going on in your garden and you need to do a remediation plan or you need to spray for something. That will come up, but right now we're going to talk all about the fun stuff, all about what we're going to grow, where we're going to grow it, and when we're going to grow it. And we can start planning about all of the tools and resources that we need in order to get started on time and have everything ordered and just stored exactly where we need it. Before we can actually start planning for the future, I like to take a look back and reflect on the past growing season and what actually worked and didn't work. What were my successes? What were my failures? What were things that we actually ate? And what were things that literally didn't even get eaten and were tossed to the chickens or I had to throw away or compost? And what were things that we grew but just took so much time and effort that probably wouldn't be worth it in the future? And I have a few of those. But let's reflect together on things that were really successful for us and what were epic fails so that I don't have to repeat them again. Okay, so let's talk about what actually worked really, really well. And what worked amazingly last year was we started to do a lot more automated watering systems. Now, if your garden is situated close to your house, it might be really easy to automate your water with a hose and a drip system. But unfortunately, we are on a well and our garden is pushed pretty far back from our house because of the way that the sun was positioning and just the general space that we have in our property. So we don't really have the ability to just take water from our house, and we have to do a lot of water collection and then powering it without a real true power source to our garden. So we needed to think through a few different options, and we've been playing around over the past couple of years, but I think we found a winner on automating our watering system. And this really just, at the end of the season, we really figured it out and we're really excited to build it into our garden. We will be going over how we're building it in case you have similar setups, but automation is just something that if you haven't thought about, I do think you should think about it, especially for watering, because especially in the heat of July, August, you need to be watering maybe 1 to 2 times a day. And to be manually doing that was just causing so much time and stress. There were times where we would go on vacation and we would need our pet sitter to actually go out and water or have a neighbor come water, which was not really the best scenario. And it meant that the time that we were spending in our garden weren't doing things that we actually really loved and enjoyed. Unfortunately, I do not love just standing with a hose at my garden. It was not something that I found truly fulfilling, but when I can actually get into the dirt and be looking at the plants and figuring out what I want to do, weeding, cleaning up, adding more seeds, figuring out a plan is way more exciting than just standing there and watering. So that is a really big change that we're going to be implementing this year as we go into the growing season. Another big change that happened was we reconfigured a lot of our garden. We decided to turn it into more of a food forest than just a fruit and vegetable garden. And that was really a game changer. We've added a lot more perennial berries and vegetables into our garden, things like asparagus. We have blueberry bushes, and we're really trying to change the look and feel of our garden. And as you see, as we go into some garden tours this summer, you'll really get a reflection on that. But I think adding perennials has really changed the way that we treat our garden. Perennials are also just a game changer because there's some plants that you have maybe that annually you're going in, you're watching the whole life cycle happen, but a perennial you can kind of really take care of in the first year or two, and then they just really shoot off and grow and provide so much for you, and you could just do some minimal upkeep to them. And that's what I'm really, really excited for, because this year we added a lot of perennials, so I know that in 2026 we're going to be reaping a lot of the benefits of that, which I'm really, really excited about. Some oopsies or not so great epic fails that we've had was we actually had a lot of damage done to our Douglas fir raised beds. We had beautiful Douglas fir raised beds, but this year a lot of them were starting to deteriorate, and they aren't built to last. They are compostable materials and they do biodegrade. So we just have seen that it's going a lot faster than we wanted, and to rebuild them is just not in our budget this year. So we're transforming our garden. We're adding a lot more raised metal beds, which I have a link down below of some of my favorite ones there. And what I like about those is they really do withstand the test of time. They have a different look and feel, and they operate a little bit differently in the way that they are keeping in moisture and heat and keeping those elements into it. But they're going to withstand the test of time. And then we've also been doing a lot more of the no-till, no-dig method in our garden. And that is going to be some in-ground gardening, which we established in the fall this year, and we will be really working on this spring, and I'm really excited to see that change. But it was really upsetting when a lot of our beds were just deteriorating, falling, warping apart, and things were just falling out of them this year. So that was a really big. Not everyone is going to have a full garden transformation, like changing up their watering system, changing the different type of beds that they have. Those are really large tier problem statements and solutions that we're working towards, but things could be just as simple as we grew X amount of carrots and we only ate X amount, or we grew some kale and nobody liked it, so we're not even going to grow that next year, or we grew tomatoes and we're always still buying tomatoes at the grocery store because we didn't have enough. So next year we're going to grow more. Those are things that you can be thinking about as you go from maybe a smaller tier garden to a larger one. And the problems that you have are always going to be changing and going with the flow on how kind of your family reciprocates to them. We added a new family member to our house in January of last year. So this year he wasn't able to eat any of the food because he was mostly eating all liquids during the summer and some small solids. But this summer he's going to be eating a lot more. I know our oldest just devoured every single berry. So that was something that we know we need to add more berries to our garden, and we need to add just so many more zucchinis and really add more crops to make up for the fact that we have another human being in our house. Next up, let's talk about how I'm actually planning out my garden once I've started to reflect on those ideas. Now, first, I like to take actual paper to pen and draw out different things. So this year we did do a little reorganization of our garden. So I am drawing out kind of what I want everything to look like. If you're new to gardening and you're planning out your beds, this is a really great process that I came up with. So I literally just took 2 pieces of paper, we measured it out, and then what we did is I actually laminated it, and I got a nice little whiteboard marker, and I started to draw out the configurations of the beds and what I wanted them to look like. Then you can use your dry erase marker to start to kind of draw, write things in, ideate. What I like about this is you can easily just erase and restart over, and you have a full sizing of the operation and what everything's going to look like. Now, it doesn't mean that it has to be this big. You can obviously do it in smaller sizes, and you can even draw it out and then copy it. I just used laminating sheets. You can easily buy them on Amazon, do some lamination papers, or go to a Staples near you, get something laminated. And I like it because you can just kind of draw on it and move things around. That's really cool if you're doing like a full reorganization. And if you like pen and paper, you can also just do things on graph paper or anything of the likes. But this was really, really great this season that we did. That was our first time actually doing it, and I'm a big fan. Another thing that I have done for a really long time is, and I am not like an Excel genius, I'm literally quite the opposite, but I took my garden and I kind of drew it out in blocks on Google Sheets, same thing as like Excel. And what I do is every year I just duplicate the page and then I can refill it in. And what's nice about this is I can see, what did I plant last year in that location? Do we like it? Do we not like it? This year I did do some color coding. So things that were the blue are perennials, they're always going to stay in that area. Things that are green are things that are changing over. And I've added more successional planting into these. Now, I do think you can add more than just one crop per bed. So sometimes this can get a little annoying if you want to be adding a bunch of different things. But I like to think that my major fruits are in the center. So things like tomatoes, cucumbers, watermelons, melons, honeydew, anything like that that need a lot of space. I was putting those kind of in the center. I was putting some flowers along the edges, some flowers and herbs along the edges where I feel like I can kind of sprinkle those around. So first what I would do is I'd actually create a list on the side of everything that our family actually likes to eat. And then I'd go in and kind of put it into a location. I think about what are complementary plants to each other, what things work well together, and then rotating year over year. So I don't always want to have my tomatoes in the same bed. I don't always want to have my corn in the same bed because it's just going to deplete the nutrients in that area. So I am doing a bit of a rotation in there to make sure that the soil isn't going to get depleted of anything. And then if one year maybe I'm doing something, then I'll put something else in there to make the soil kind of feed back into that area. Another thing that we're doing is we're adding a lot more cut flowers into our garden this year. So really working that into the mix, and areas where I might have to dig up some of the roots in order to pull those, freeze them, get them ready for next year, or sell some of those roots or bulbs is something that I'm thinking about a little bit differently this year. And it's probably going to take a lot more time to mentally figure that out. Okay, so we talked a little bit about what I like to grow, but how are you going to know what to grow in your garden? And this is where I like to slow down a little bit. This is more about what are you going to eat and what is going to save you money at the grocery store, as well as what's going to grow in your area. So first, just take a catalog of what are you eating on a weekly, monthly basis in your family. What do you guys actually enjoy? And maybe there's foods that you haven't tried. Maybe you want to try beets or kale or a different type of leafy green. Go ahead, try it now in the winter. If you like it, then add it to your garden of what to grow. And then just make sure that it's something that will grow in your zone. And you can easily figure out which zone you are for growing by just Googling your zip code, and it will tell you exactly which zone you are. And then you know how to actually think about your planting. And we will get back to your zone in a bit because that's going to give us a whole timeline on when we need to do everything. But it's really important that you don't just grow things to grow them, but you're going to actually grow them so that you will eat them or enjoy the benefits of them. Something I grew 2 years ago that I really loved, I need to add back into my garden for this year, isn't something that we eat, but I actually grew loofahs. It was such a fun activity to grow, and we still have some of the dried up loofahs that we use in our shower. So just like a really cool item. So sometimes you might want to grow something just fun. Maybe you're not going to eat, but that's a really fun one. And another fun one I want to grow this year is gourds for birdhouses. I tried to do it last year, but I just couldn't find a good gourd when it came to the time that I thought about it because I was late to the process there. But 2 items that maybe you aren't going to necessarily eat, but you just want to have for crafting as well. Things you should be thinking about as you're thinking through your garden. As you're planning during this time, it can be easy to let your ideas go wild, and you should let them go unwieldy and wild, but then bring them back in and remember why you're gardening, your purpose. And sometimes you want to start small before you can really get big. It's important that when you're gardening, you are successful, so you keep doing it year and year again. And gardening is really complex, and there's so many different things from the environment that can offset it, and so many factors that can play into it. So start small, think about how you can be successful in that small area, because things are gonna come up. You're gonna have kids that don't wanna go outside one day and it's too hot and you can't get them out there, but you can't leave them inside. You're gonna have vacations. You're gonna have days that you don't have time to water or weed or get into your garden. There's gonna be times where you can't always go outside and do what you need to in the garden, and you need to make sure that you're planning for that. Things like automating your water, coming up with a spray schedule for any of your sprays that you're adding to your garden. We will go over some organic ones as we go into some of the gardening topics this season, but it's really important that you pre-think these and you lock them into your schedule for the spring, for the summer, so they aren't things that you have to be overwhelmed or worried about. And as you become successful in them, then grow out your garden, make it bigger, and you've learned to do it. So start with one bed, start with 2 beds, and then continue to grow off of that, and you'll be less overwhelmed come growing season. If you're here and you're a beginner and you're feeling overwhelmed and confused and you don't know where to start, you are at the right space. Winter is an amazing time to be researching, to be thinking ahead and planning. And I'm going to show you everything that you need to know during this time period. So definitely subscribe if you aren't already a part of the channel. I have a beautiful download on what you can be doing to be planning during this time, as well as the spring. So head on over to the links down below. They will guide you exactly what you need to do in winter, in spring, and in summer to make sure that your garden is a success. And we're going to be doing this together. So do not worry. Thank you so much for being here today, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.